Hi, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to everyone who is joining us live from around the world. Welcome to this flagship Mirai Innovation webinar hosted by Jiitak, wherein we will bring together global perspectives to explore how AI transformation and sustainability are reshaping the world around us. My name is Ishan, and I'm delighted to be your moderator today. So, a little bit about me. So, by the way, I'm joining you from a very sunny Dublin today, which is a rare scenario. And I have over 15 years of experience. In my current role, I lead a large sales operations team for Google in Ireland, and we support large advertisers in their campaign optimization and implementation. And is this something that I started my career with? Not at all. I started my career back in 2009 as a core techie, like software engineer, and did that for a while, went into even more technical stuff into data science and analytics. And then I joined Google into the ads space. And since then, I've done multiple roles and dabbled across multiple domains. Fun fact, I think last year I nearly did three different roles within Google itself. So it has been a fun experience. But enough about me. Before we dive in, a quick reminder for everyone. We would love to hear your thoughts throughout the session. So my humble request is to feel free to drop your thoughts and questions on LinkedIn. We will also be taking live audience questions towards the end. So please keep the comments coming in. Now let's meet today's speakers and each one of them will bring powerful insights from different corners of innovation landscape, and they bring in a huge wealth of experience. Starting with Yuki, who is the co-founder of Jiitak, and he will be presenting on scaling tech innovations in limited resources. Then we have Joseph, who is also a co-founder of Jiitak, and he will be speaking on a topic called From Local to Global, the Evolution of Building for Impact in International Markets. Then we have Louise, who is director at Peak Element, and she will be presenting on software and AI for a green and circular economy. We also have Arjun with us, who is a senior data quality manager at Zero North, and he will present some insights on data quality as the foundation of digital sustainability. And last but not the least, we have Anish, who is an AI software engineering manager at Intel, and he will be doing an interesting session. It'll be like a workshop style talk on future ready AI for transformation. So we have an exciting session ahead, and I encourage all of you to stay tuned until the very end. There are a lot of takeaways from today's conversations. So without wasting any time, I'll directly jump into our keynote presentations. So we begin with Yuki, who is co-founder of Jiitak, and like I said, who will be sharing his experiences on scaling tech innovation in limited resources. So over to you, Yuki.
Thank you, Shan. So I would like to start my presentation. It's my voice clear? Is my slide visible properly? Okay.
Perfectly clear.
Okay. So let's begin. So hi everybody. I'm Yuki Kobayashi, the co-founder of Jiitak Inc. And today I would like to be talking about leading companies to scale tech innovations with limited resources. Before going to the topic, I would like to talk a bit about myself. This is my profile. This is my name in kanji. And I was born and raised in Japan, Tokyo. And in 2019, I traveled to 11 cities across India, where I was inspired by the passion of the younger generations and the potential for collaboration with Japan. Then I co-founded Jiitak Inc. And since then, I led and collaborated on more than 30 projects, working closely with client teams and ranging from startups to major core companies to drive innovation from the problem discovery phase to achieving the successful product market fit. So it's a bit sudden. Like, did you guys know that more than 90% of new businesses failed, according to the research? So if we are going to go a bit closely to the fact, according to the research, this is a bit more like based on Japanese market, but I don't think so. This is much different from your countries. So the question is like, how far did your new business development project progress? So as the progress goes on, the number of people who could continue to that steps are getting really less. So of course, like when it's becoming like opportunity ideation or idea to concept, still a lot of people can still continue. But like once it goes to the launch level, more than half, like 50% of people cannot even launch their services. And after that, this is where we are defining the successful, new businesses which became profitable more than 1 year. If we are combine this, it's only 10%. So which means like 90% of new project pretty much fail. So why this is happening? There are quite a lot of reasons, but the main things that I believe in, it's the lack of practical know-how to launch and scale new business in the organization. So there are not much knowledge inside, or the people who have talent in those new businesses, like to create 0 to 1. Due to that, since the know-how is lack, there are mainly two problems, or like the long decision that they are creating. The first one is starting product development without a clear understanding of user problems and pain points. The second thing is trying to solve too many problems at once at the first very initial phase. So, so due to this, what is going to happen? It's the solution it's misaligned, or the solution it's over engineered from the beginning at the first level. So to increase the success rate of new business, what we have to do, what new business has to do, it's a lean and accurate solution like this. So to do this, what we have to do, it's we cannot think about product development as just one process. We have to actually define like uh, three steps. The first one is solution design, which our company Jiitak is also mainly providing the service to the client. The second thing is MVP development. The third thing is PMF, business growth support. For solution design, it is mostly about problem identification and user analysis. After that, we will make up the solution plan, as well as we will visualize it, and we will define the requirements for this stage. So mainly, we should only spend 3 months for this process. And after that, MVP development, which is with the strategy or what we planned at the solution design phase, we are going to realize that product with minimum necessary functionalities. So that minimum 3.6 months, which we can spend time. And PMF, business growth support, it's something, it's depending on the user voices. After this MVP development, you can think about how your UI UX can be optimized, or you can get more data to analyze or do the marketing or monetization strategy. So if we are going a bit deeper on solution design, we have 5 steps of solution design. So first, we are going with problem definition and user analysis. Through workshop and interviews with actual target users, we can clarify core challenges and user needs. And with that, we will plan. The new business should be planned with solution planning. And with the solution planning, that solution has to be visualized. So it's creating the design and document and prototype at this stage so that new people in new business can already provide how it's looking like to the target audience, so that at the stage you can already catch up the actual voices from the target users. After that, it is also important to cover up how technically feasible it is at this stage itself. So if you are going to do the technical feasibility check after you start the development, you will face so much problems, and also it will be more costly and time spending for you to go back to that level. If so, to prevent from that, it is really better to start this technical feasibility check at this point. And after these steps, we will work on the requirement definitions. And after that, we will go on to the minimum viable product development. So at standard, what it tends to happen, how the new business tends to have problem, it's they go with like creating the tire first, and after that they make the basement, and they will make the frames, and finally it will become looking like the product that you can actually give it to target users. But MVP development, what we have to do as new business, creating a new business, it's rather than creating just the tire, we have to go with the skateboard, which we can already give users to feel how the experience is like. Can they really solve the problem? So we have to go with the focused and limited problems to solve it, rather than going for solving so many problems. So after that, by hearing the problem, we will make the product better and better, so that if we do not spend too much time or limited resources, uh, like minimum maintenance cost, it's like the maintenance cost can be also minimized. And the next thing is PMF and growth. The process from the product launch to the market growth is like this, and it's about PMF and growth this stage. For this one, there are quite many things that people can do, think about at this stage based on the user needs, which can be UI UX optimization or more monetization plan, so that we can make the product to be profitable, more like sustainable. So for like before going to the MVP or solution design, many new businesses tends to go what's this phase, like how they can make things like solve more problem at once. So the important notes, it's rather than going from 0 to 10 or 100, we have to first go with 0 to 1. After creating 0 to 1, we have to go with the next steps. By doing that, the important notes is achieving higher performance through optimal cost allocations. What this is like normally, generally, people spend a lot of time for core development. But if we can keep costs down, what's minimum necessary development based on the customer value variation, and also open source or frameworks that we can utilize, we can make this core development part cost less, so that we can do appropriate cost allocation. So by making this part less, we can utilize this cost on MVP development, solution design, which company usually think that it's not like it's invisible things to they invest on. So they kind of they don't really motivated to invest on this part, but rather than spending cost on this part, we can allocate it, so that what is going to happen, it's because customer value variation, it's carried out at the initial stage. So the time performance too, comparing to the general development, the product market fit timing, it's going to be quite early. So thank you for listening, and I'd like to get some question, like I would like to answer anything if you guys are going to ask. So thank you for listening.
Thanks, Yuki, for that powerful kickoff. In fact, we'll do a Q&A once we are done with all rounds of presentation. In fact, I would really want to double down on how do you actually optimize for cost when you're building a product, because I think that slide stayed with me. Next, we have Joseph, who is also a co-founder of Jiitak, who will take us through how organizations can move from solving local problems to making a global impact, all while staying rooted in purpose.
Thank you so much, Ishan, for the setting up the stage, and it's been a great pleasure for me to continue. So to start with, hi everyone. It's good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for many people like me. So it's always interesting to be part of such an interesting thing. To give a brief about what I am or what I've been through, I would like to give a really short intro. So I am originally from India, have done usually like any Indian going to engineering, and after which I worked for 4 years in a tech company. And during my initial phase of moving into Japan, it was for my business studies, and after which the company Jiitak Incorporated was created. Before the process, I have also had some interesting opportunities of going to US, being part of MIT Entrepreneurship Bootcamp, where I could really iterate and be part of how startups or businesses scale from local to global in a theoretical manner, and seeing some live companies doing so in there. And also had an opportunity of being in Australia with an organization called Center for Entrepreneurial Research, where it has been an interesting journey where they commercialize PhD projects that really just go in shelf. They commercialize and make them into real projects, though initially in the local market, and they scale it out to the global. To start with, how can we effectively move from local to global? The evolution of building impact in international market. So I would want everybody to keep something in mind, even though if you don't get anything else from my presentation, just have this in mind, which will transform in some form for your life. Action trumps everything. Do some action. Don't worry about failure or problems that you might face. Just act, and you will have success coming behind you. So, why this conversation of going from local to global does matter? So, 85% of the global consumers expect brands to be socially responsible. Over half of VC's funding happen to sustainable tech and impact-focused startups. Innovation that doesn't solve real world problems are left behind, because people are getting more thoughtful, and companies also have to be really understanding that you have to solve real world problems. What is impact? It's not just tech for good. It's building measurable, inclusive benefit to people as well as to the planet that we are in. 77% of impact ventures report stronger brand trust. To give you an example of what is an impact, AI powered a crop tool increased farmers' yield by 30%. The 30% does show what is an impact that product has created. It's always important to create those kinds of impact to have a successful product or service. Why scaling with purpose is challenging? Definitely from a local perspective to a global note. Only 1 in 5 startups that succeed locally manage to scale globally. Digital exclusions still 2.7 billion people globally. I will reiterate what I just said. It does mean 2.7 billion people doesn't have access to even internet in the current world that we are in. Some key barriers of why we cannot move smoothly from local market to global. And the initial one is culture and trust gaps that exist. So definitely in terms of different companies that try to expand, if they don't understand the culture that they are expanding to, it's going to be really hard. To give you a small quick example, where the cultural aspect can be made into your advantage. Consider a case of Kit Kat, which is a chocolate mostly available in most countries. But here in Japan, you have more than 300 flavors available, which I don't think so, even in the country that they are initially started have that much. So it's about abiding to the culture they adapt. Then moving to the next point is low digital infrastructure, the regulation fragmentation, that I think everybody can connect much easily and effectively with the recent activity what the president of US, Mr. Trump did. So these kinds of regulations actually have to be taken care if you are trying to expand the policies, or what kind of things that can impact your business has to be taken care with immediate or greater responsibility. And most important one is the people. Any company that has to drive and be successful, people are going to be really important. So misalignment of talent as well as the hiring practice, having right people in the right position can lead any company to succeed locally as well as taking them global level. Another effective barrier that people find or companies tend to avoid is lack of regional partnerships. It's quite important to have regional partnerships in place so that the smooth transitions from local to global can happen. So to give you a nutshell on 5 principles that can help you take your companies from local level to the global level. Start local, think modular, pilot deeply before you push things out. Design for access, not just for the sake of the UX. If your real target customers just want something, it should work offline, then that should be given more priority. If the multi-language capability is the expectation, that should be given priority. Voice-based, that should be given. So it's all important. What actually really matters is how much real value can you give your customers or the end users that you're catering to. Not just monthly active users. It doesn't give you anything in business. It should be quantifiable, as I showed with an example earlier, and furthermore during the presentation I'll show a few more examples. Definitely, to scale any business globally these days, it's important to have partners. It can be B2B partnerships, it can be working together with NGOs, corporations, or government bodies. Let impact guide the roadmaps. People tend to think, oh, my business can be successful in this location, just move there. That is not how it works. You have to understand that the product or service what you are in has the potential in that market and it's ready to take it over. Go do it in that market. As earlier Yuki explained regarding solution design, how we process the problem once it's come. It's basically going deep into the problem, analyzing whether it's worth solving, and user analysis gives you a clear understanding of what you are trying to solve. Proposing a solution that's minimum and the most minimum possible. It should create a revenue, but not for the like the freebie. Like people consider these days just giving any application for free will work things out. There are certain applications that can do that, but it's about in the initial minimum viable product itself, we should be able to monetize. Next, we take to the visualization. I don't have to explain much. I think it's already explained. So visually, what is it going to solve for? It can be to the users. It can be to the investors, that you are the decision makers for your product. So technical validation does not make you any further behind. It gives you an extra edge that you plan for a schedule, you can do it within that time. And with the requirements finalized, we can move faster and more effectively. Now, I will quickly take you through a few examples of what really happened. Global stories that got it right. So, Series Imaging, currently known as Series AI, is out of California. What they do really is aerial imagery and AI analytics to help farmers detect crop health, soil moisture, and also irrigation efficiency. The impact it created, it reduced 20 to 30% of water usage and improved the yield by 15 to 20%. So it initially started off in California, they expanded over the US, and then to the uh, south of America, then to Europe, and also in Australia. So this is mostly known by most people, and I think we have a speaker from the place it has already been. So too good to go. It's a Copenhagen-based startup that actually made like surplus food into easily accessible at a cheaper price for the users. The impact it created was tremendous. 260 million meals saved. So to conclude, I think it's important to ask a few questions before you scale. Are you scaling a solution or just a business? Is your product globally portable or context dependent? Can it survive without major funding? Have you co created it with your end users? Impact driven solutions grow steadily but sustainably. They solve first, then scale. What's next? Innovation 2025 must be human centered, locally rooted, globally relevant. So I repeat, action trumps everything. We don't need more speed. We need more substance. We need innovations, includes, last, and build across borders. Thank you for your patient listening. Hope you all have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for sharing those powerful insights. I really appreciated the examples that you gave in the end. Some of them were also relatable because I'm also based in EMEA. So thank you for that. We will quickly move on to Anish, who has an interesting workshop planned for us on future ready AI for transformation. Over to you, Anish.
Thank you, Ishan. Can I have my slides? Okay. Welcome everyone. Thanks for having me here. And today we will talk about AI transformation and sustainable solution. Can we go to the next slide? So some standard notices and disclaimer. I might show up some numbers. So there's a standard Intel's notices and disclaimer. Next slide. Brief introduction about myself. I head the AI software engineering for the Asia Pacific region at Intel. As part of my role, I enable enterprise customers to implement optimization from ideation to production or anywhere in between. So, at any point in time, if you're working on any AI related use cases and if you need really help in implementing and optimizing it, do talk to me. I can give you free. I can pull Intel's engineers to work for you for free, giving you free guidance on how to implement that. Next slide. So we'll talk three things. We'll briefly talk about generative AI from a perspective of sustainability, and then we'll talk about what are the different types of optimizations available, and probably we will end up with a short Q&A. Next slide. We can skip this probably. Can we skip this? Next slide. Yeah, this works good. So I think everybody is aware of generative AI. So I'll not go get into what generative AI is or what are the use of it. I think everybody is using ChatGPT now, and everybody is aware of what all the benefits of ChatGPT or stable diffusion model to create your images. So kind of this generative AI has taken over all the creative work, right? So earlier classical AIML was there, it was mostly affecting non-creative work, but with the generative AI, all the creative work of writing code, creating movies, creating images, and writing a poem, writing a lyrics, and all this kind of creative works is taken over by AI. But all this is coming at a huge cost. So this figure here shows what is the typical carbon output, right? What is the carbon footprint of different types of activities? If you see a flight that is on the graph, you can see there's a flight that is moving from New York to San Francisco. It pounds of carbon dioxide per passenger. And if you go on the top, if you see, it's almost the training on AI model is the highest consumption of emitter of carbon dioxide, right? So we might be thinking, I might key in one question in the chat GPT and it spits out the answer. It's all, we are all happy about that. But at the back end, there's a huge amount of power that is going to be consumed in terms of training for the inference and all these things. So we need to be really be aware of all these things so that we can have a very sustainable future. Can we go to the next slide? So just to give you an idea, right, there's a prediction by 2034, all the data centers across the globe will need almost 1,580 terawatts of power yearly. That's the amount of power that India is totally consuming. The entire India, if you take how much power India is consuming, that much amount of power is required only to run the data centers. This is the prediction that is happening, right? With all these huge amounts of GPUs and trainings and all this doing. Just to give you an idea again to why you need so much of amount of power. The original ChatGPT model that came in 2020 took almost 16,000 high-end enterprise grade GPUs running 24/7 for more than 6 months to train that model. 16,000 high-end GPUs, not the consumer grade GPUs, high-end GPUs, enterprise grade GPUs running 24/7 for 6 months. Now, the latest Llama 4 model took almost 1 lakh GPUs, 1 lakh GPUs running 24/7. I don't know for how many months they ran it. So you can imagine the kind of power consumption that's happening, right? So this is a very power intensive application. It's not like this generative AI is not like a traditional applications. It's not. So in traditional application, we really don't bother much about the power because it's all of very low, and in terms of compute requirement and everything, it's very low, and so we don't really bother about. So can we go to the next slide? So I'll tell what is the way forward. Now that you know that this is the amount of power that is required, what are the different types of optimizations that we can do to reduce the total carbon footprint? So we have three options. One is hardware optimizations. You can do an hardware level optimization to reduce the total power consumption. You can do a framework level optimizations, and at the application level, you can do further optimizations. So we'll briefly touch upon each of these verticals and see what are the different options available for you as an developer, for as an user, as an somebody who's implementing AI solutions, how we can use this to reduce your total carbon footprint and make an environment sustainable AI solutions. Can you go to the next slide? So let's next slide. So like I said, hardware companies are also watching. There are so many different types of AI and Gen AI applications are coming. So what hardware companies are doing is they're trying to invent newer and things. One of the things that they did was, if you take a normal CPU, there is only CPU cores. So I might talk a little bit more of hardware level technical terms. If you are not aware of those technical terms, don't worry about that. Just remember those keywords for now. We can always discuss those things in the detail later, right? So just remember the keywords. So traditionally, CPU, if you buy a CPU, you have traditional CPU cores. But the CPU cores alone, we are not able to do all the justice in terms of enhancing the performance of an generative AI application. So hardware vendors like Intel, what they did was they started introducing specific chips within the CPUs called accelerators. So the Xeon 4th generation accelerator CPU has multiple types of accelerators. One of the accelerators that is of importance is advanced matrix extension, AMX, the accelerator that you can see here. What is the beauty of this accelerator is it enhances your matrix multiplication 1.5x to 2x performance, right? If you're running a matrix multiplication on a CPU versus a accelerator, the performance is, you'll get almost 1.5x to 2x performance benefits with a reduced power consumption, because that entire circuit is completely dedicated to do the matrix multiplication. So remember, I should try to use those kind of accelerators. All the hardware vendors are coming up with different types of accelerators dedicated for a particular workload. So please use the accelerator like the advanced matrix extension accelerator available in Intel Xeon. That's the one level of optimization. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the other axle of this thing is, everybody knows about CPUs and GPUs, just to see if the evolution, right? So CPUs were invented first. They were able to do all kinds of all kinds of application. They were able to run all kinds of application efficiently, or they can do any type of computations. Then in the 90s, there was a requirement that, like, the games or animations, simulations came up. So industry thought we should have a separate dedicated chip that can do this kind of jobs more efficiently than a CPU. So GPU was invented. So GPU was, we were happy with GPU till around 2020, when Generative AI came up, and now industries wanted a dedicated chip that can do only AI related work, but more efficiently than a CPU or a GPU, right? So that's the invention of Gaudi. Gaudi is an AI accelerators specifically meant for deep learning application. You can do training, inferencing, and all these things. Again, I'll not get into the specification of it, so you can always research it in the interest of time. Please remember, this is an accelerator. It's not a GPU, it's not a CPU, it's an accelerator dedicated for doing high-end training or inferencing that is of enterprise scales. Can we go to the next slide? And next is from a consumer perspective. Again, there's some invention that is happening. Yeah. So what Intel did was, Intel is trying to introduce these accelerators again on the consumer grade CPUs as well. So everybody is aware of Intel Core series of processor. Now we have a Core Ultra series of processor that has a CPU, GPU, and a new type of computing element called NPU, Neural Processing Unit. Again, this Neural Processing Unit can do all this matrix multiplication more efficiently than a GPU and a CPU, and definitely it gives you better battery performance for your laptop. That means reduced power consumption and better improvement in your inferencing time, right? And can we go to the next slide? Here is one sample. I think there was a video, probably since it's a PDF, the video is not playing. So let's skip that. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Next. So here are different types of use cases, AI use cases that are available, and each of those use cases have different types of compute element that is recommended. For example, you can see super resolution needs a GPU. Denoising, you can use NPU, the neural processing unit. For code writing, you can use a GPU. For image to image translation, you can use a GPU or NPU. So these are different, like, and all these three computing element will come on a single chip for you. This is the hardware level of optimization that is available on your laptops. So if you're planning to buy a new laptop, maybe you can upgrade it with Intel Core Ultra series. So you get all these three compute elements, and you can run your AI workloads right on your laptop more efficiently, right? So can we go to the next slide, please? There was again one video which was actually showing what is the invention that is happening in terms of creating the actual chip, right? So we all know that the silicon level, it's all about transistors that are there. So you need to embed the Moore's law, the more says that every 2 years the amount of density of transistors in a square inch of silicon doubles with the same price. The price being the same, the amount of silicon keeps doubling up. So Intel and others are constantly working towards making sure the Moore's law is alive and kicking in, and so that we get more performance benefits. Can we go to the next slide, please? Next, we'll talk about the framework level optimization. Next slide. So on the framework level optimization, in the all the industry, hardware industry, and others came together and formed an alliance called One API. So One API is an alliance which ensures that any frameworks that are developed using this standards, One API standards, are ensured to have better performance, and they're tried. For example, everybody, whoever is working on AI, they'll be knowing that you can use PyTorch to do an training or inferencing of an AI model. Now Intel has an extension for PyTorch called Intel extension for PyTorch that is part of the One API standards. And if you use that Intel extension for PyTorch, you will end up using the accelerator that I was talking about in the earlier slide. And that way your program speed increases. Like earlier, if it was taking 5 seconds for a particular inference, it will can come down to 3 seconds or 2 seconds based on the load, and then you'll get better inference, better customer experience, and reduced power consumption, right? So please use one API specification. There are almost all the different types of libraries are standardized for one API. If you are using any AI related workloads, please use one API standards, and it is guaranteed to work on Intel, AMD, NVIDIA, all the other things. So you are also not locked to a particular vendor, right? You can develop it on Intel and move it to NVIDIA, or develop on NVIDIA, move it to Intel, back and forth. You can do all those things. So just to give one example again on the one API, on the graph, the dark blue graph shows that it takes almost 341 seconds to run an Excel file. You take up a CSV file which is of 2.4 gigabyte file and try to read it using the standard Pandas library. Pandas is an open source library that you use to basically scan the CSV files, and it takes almost 341 seconds to run on a Xeon with the 40 cores. Now with just one word change, one word of change that uses one API module, you can reduce it to 31 seconds. From 341 seconds, you are making it to 31 seconds, and that way you are reducing, you are getting 10x boost in performance, and the power consumption will come down significantly as well. And you, at the end of the day, you're giving better user experience to the user, and finally saving the power, and better usage of your compute resources. Next slide, please. I told about the PyTorch. So just 3 lines of code changes is all that you need to do to enable the PyTorch related things. Like I said, the things that are marked in the square box is all about the PyTorch related implementation. Uh, Probably I'll not get into the details of that. If you need at any point in time, even after this call is over, after this webinar is over, please get in touch with me. I think we are reaching time. I'll quickly go to another 2 3 slides. Can you go to the next slide? This is one simple table showing the amount of carbon savings here. You can see if you are using PyTorch, it will give you around the amount of energy consumed is around 5,000 joules per iteration. And if you just implement the Intel's optimizations on the PyTorch, it is from 5,000 joules per second, you are reducing to 1,300 joules per second. So you are reducing the energy consumption drastically. Can we go to the next slide, please? Last is the okay. This was again the graph. It shows the evolution of generative AI. For in generative AI, there is a term metric called parameters. Parameters define the complexity of the generative AI model. So 2017, Google released transformer model, which is around 65 million parameter. And in 2020, ChatGPT publicly was released. It was 175 billion parameter, and at the now we are at ChatGPT 4, which is around 1 trillion parameters. So what does it mean? Can we go to the next slide? It means you need to invest huge amounts of money to train these models to do the inferencing. I'll not get into the numbers. The numbers speaks for itself. Can we go to the next slide, please? It not only requires huge investment, it also requires huge amount of hardware resources. Just to give you a calculation here, I am not even taking a 200 billion parameter. I'm taking a Llama 7 billion parameter model. It requires almost 67 GB of RAM just to load it. Just to load it, I'm not even doing inferencing or not even touching the model. Just to load it into the memory, I need 67 GB of RAM. So you need a huge amount of compute power. You need huge amounts of um, money to do all this AI related work. So that obviously puts a question to enterprise: is it really affordable for me to do that, right? So the answer to that is, go to the next slide, please. Answer to that is, we recommend use smaller models like the Llama 7 billion parameter model. Fine tune it. Fine tune is basically injecting your own custom data right into the model. The model comes up with all the generic open source data. You can take up that model and use a process called fine tuning to inject your own data into that, so that the model has general intelligence. On top of that, it is super intelligent on your specific data. For example, if you're working on healthcare, aerospace, finance, retail, energy, telco, or manufacturing, do that fine tuning so that you can actually reduce the total compute power, ensure the model gives you better accuracy, also ensure your carbon footprint is lower. Can we go to the next slide, please? These are the various hardware recommendation. Basically, it starts from 1 billion parameter to more than 100 billion parameter model. It talks about using a core series, core ultra series, or AIPC processor up to the data center processor. I'll not get into the details of it. If you have any doubts at any point in later time, please talk to me. I'm available on LinkedIn. Search Anish and Intel. You should get me there, and I will always be happy to help you there. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, and this is one open source solution available from Intel. If anybody wants to deploy an optimized way of deploying an inference solution, this is available. It's called Intel AI for Enterprise Inference. So please talk to me. I'll be able to help you to implement this and ensure that you get maximum juice out of your hardware, so that your total carbon footprint comes down, your total cost of ownership comes down, and give you better performance for your end user. I think I'm done. I don't want to take further time. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me later. I'm here. Okay,
Thank you so
I
much,
think.
Anish.
Thank you.
I think it was a great insight into how organizations can be ready for AI-driven future that is also built responsibly. I think you also took me back to my engineering days, because some of the things like the words like joules, I think I haven't heard in 20 years. And I'm sure a lot of people would take your offer on providing free engineers. I hope they come with that system of 67 GB RAM.
So we can definitely give that now. No problem.
Perfect. From here, we will actually move over to Luis, who has an interesting presentation around software and AI for green and circular economy.
Yes, thank you so much, Isan. Yes, so I'm Louise Sengeløv. I'm located in Copenhagen in Denmark, and I'm the founder of GridTurn and Peak Element. At Peak Element, we help with the business development for technology businesses focused on sustainability mainly. And in GridTurn, we walk the talk and we build battery energy storage systems from used electric vehicle batteries. So really doing both the green transition and the circular transition. And with this presentation, I hope to inspire you with some of the solutions that I see that we desperately need in the world. So please feel free to take all the inspiration here and start building these. So I hope you will take that away from this presentation. In order to just briefly touch upon the urgency, so this is another schematic, you can say, in terms of what is the state of our planet. We have what we are calling these planetary boundaries, which if we cross them, we could end up in a runaway situation where we cannot really control what is going on anymore. And you can see just the development in the past 20 years, where we have all of a sudden we have increased it greatly to in 2009 we had 3 boundaries crossed, and in 2015 we had 4 of them crossed, and now in 2023 we have 6 crossed. So that's things like biodiversity loss, it's things like climate change, it's acidification of our oceans, it's chemicals, microplastics in our environment. It's a lot of things where we as humans have a direct impact on the world. And therefore, we really need to think differently, not just in terms of the green transition, but also in the way that we use raw materials. So basically, what we will need is we need to go from the linear business model where we take raw materials, we make something, we consume it, and then we throw it away in the end. We have plastics all across the oceans in our planet now, and we need to think more circular, where we try to reduce, the amount of raw materials that we use. And when we create something, then we try to reuse it as much as possible. And in the end, we recycle it so that we don't have a huge consumption of virgin raw materials. And will software and AI then be an enabler of this transition? I think it could be. It could be saving our world, or it can actually make it much worse. As Anish was also pointing towards, then we have this huge energy intensity of AI. And therefore, in my view, we need to use AI in the best way possible to actually do good with the tool that we have in our toolbox here. So basically, if we were just going to apply AI to the models that we're using today, are in a linear world where we have this linear mindset in business as usual. And therefore, if we just use that data for training and we don't consider the overall sustainability of the products that we make and just optimize for the short term, then we could end up in a situation where we actually consume more. So we could have this carbon intensity of AI models. We could have more electronic waste also from AI generation. But we could also consider just improving the footprint of AI, as Anish was also pointing towards, and just focus on creating more of this circular economy. So that could be, for instance, by thinking more circular in terms of the new business models that we needed to create. We could have preventive maintenance. We could consider it all the way in our product design. You know, if we got all of this big data, we could also analyze in terms of, you know, how do these products break? Could we do something to make them more durable? Could we do something to ease the reuse, disassembly, all of these aspects, so that we can get more out of the products in the end and avoid just using more and more raw materials and basically exhausting the planet where we live. And I think that is exactly what is needed. Of course, in the energy space, where we are also heavily involved, you could use the AI models to look into the system and just say we need more fossil backup sources because we have renewables, those are intermittent, and we need more of those in the planning. Or we could say, well, could we actually have more demand flexibility? You know, how should we consume our energy? How should we change the way that we view energy in our world in order to have even more renewables so that we can fully decarbonize our energy system? And that is being utilized right now in many use cases. If we are to look at Europe, where we are you could say very focused on a lot of these things, there's more and more talk about reuse and recycling in Europe, and of course also in clean energy. I think Europe is a great sandbox for a lot of these technologies and for testing out various things, because we already have a big renewable penetration here, also in Denmark. And of course, we are very focused on the reuse recycling part. And actually from 2030, we will have what is called product passports, where we are focused on sharing some of these knowledge with consumers. For instance, in terms of, is this a recycled product? If you look at clothes, you can say, is this 100% recycled? How much is recycled? Where is this manufactured? What is the life cycle assessment of some of these products? I think as we get more and more of those numbers, that will also be part of the product passport. And then you could also get manuals from there, or you could basically also know as a consumer, what should I do with this once it's completed? You know, once I'm done with this product, where should it go? So all of that and all of that transparency is something that the product passports will bring, and that will be actually across the whole supply chain. So all the way from the manufacturing of the products to retail to all of that, there will be a lot of tracking there. And I think we definitely need some very clever digital solutions, software solutions, in order to make that successful. And of course, as I mentioned, with the LCA's life cycle assessments, where you actually look at the product and how, you know, how much it impacts the world in terms of CO2 footprint, and you get some more clarity on that. That would also help consumers make more choices based on knowledge of some of these products. Yes, so but those are just some of the things that we're doing in Europe, and then some examples of use cases. So I really think that, you know, preventive maintenance, just being able to say, what should we do with some of these products? The product passports, where we need some of these digital solutions. I also think in terms of the diagnostics, that's also something that you can definitely be using AI for, in terms of, you know, what is going on with these products in the end. Could we take them back? Could we remake them and sell them on the market again? That is also something where I do see AI playing a role. Then we have the sorting in terms of the recycling. Could we, for instance, there's an issue with plastics. Black plastic is being sent to incineration right now because of the sensors we have. Could we have AI identifying, what kind of plastics to go where when we do the recycling itself? It could also be for a whole range of other products. Then we have, you say, weed removal for farms. There have been people developing solutions for that, for identifying that, so that you don't need to use chemicals to remove them. And then, as I mentioned before, there's the whole integration where I really think AI will play a key role in that. So I think, basically what we need is we need to work together across supply chains, and we need to work together globally, because this is not just a European or Japanese or an Indian problem. It's something that we're facing throughout the world. And therefore this is key, I think, to solving this. So yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Luis. That was an inspiring lens on how digital ecosystems can power green innovation at scale. And I don't think I've ever heard of the word product passport, so I learned something new today. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And last but not the least, we'll quickly move on to Arjun, who have some insights to share on data quality and sustainability. Over to you, Arjun.
Thank you. Thank you, Ishan. So basically, I would like to start by introducing myself. Actually, maybe we should go to the first page. I am a naval architect by profession, been in marine industry for last 10 plus years, and initially have been all involved in design and construction of ships. And now for the past 4 years, I am constantly working towards what I could do the most from my industry towards a global cause of climate change. Because I am very inspired by my fellow speakers, whoever is contributing to their best. Because the cause that we have is very global. We want the future generations to survive as good as we did. So whatever we do today, it matters a lot, right? So just giving you an overview on what exactly is the impact of what every one of us is doing, and keep doing, keep inspiring everyone. That makes a lot of difference. So my talk is basically related to marine and shipping industry, as where I'm coming from. So if you talk about the industry, we have been taking a lot of steps, especially in prevention of marine environment, basically. So initially it all started from waste or sewage which is coming from the ships. But then now the focus is more into controlling emissions globally, because shipping is contributing to almost 3% of global emissions. So what we have a fixed goal. The Marine Environmental Protection Committee, tied up with IMO, has got goals of reducing carbon emissions in a gradual way, and the final end goal is to have zero emissions by 2050. So talking about marine, so how we do it, right? That is actually very important, because we should have the insights which can actually help us take decisions which actually can make make our decarbonization goals more real. So talking about maritime or ships efficiency, it is more to do with the fuel consumption and the data, right? The data that we get from the ships via different sources are actually very important. And today we are going to talk more on to the importance of having the right quality of data in towards driving towards the decarbonization or maritime efficiency. So maybe let's start, Ashila, with the first slide, please. Yeah. So why data quality matters in maritime? Maybe we can go to the next slide. Yeah. So as I said, ships generate data from various sources. They have sensors fitted on board. There is AIS data. There is Noon reports, which is manual reports. So all these data sources, are actually getting and populated onto a database, which actually runs the software and gives you the insights. So if you don't have the right quality of data, or if you have any say days report missing or good quality of data reported, because if you see in ships, there are multiple conditions, right? You have hard weather conditions, you have different sea states. So if you don't have the right good quality data, which could be considered for monitoring your ship's actual fuel performance, right, then your results or your insights also will not make sense if you are making any decisions based on that. So Why that is important? It is foundation for ships performance or fuel efficiency monitoring. Then you have, as I said, about the regulations which have got carbon intensity indicator monitoring, EU ETS, and then fuel EU. We are also actually monitoring the performance of the ships and advising the ship's captain or masters to go at a particular operating conditions, which is actually giving them better fuel benefits, which actually have a direct impact on emissions, right? So doing benchmarking requires right quality data. Then your end of voyage reports, which is actually done between the charterers and the ship owners for the claims purpose, which is operating based on the charter party clauses. It requires the right quality data so that you evaluate the performance of the ship and ensure that the committed performance is received, right? So ultimately, if it is all garbage in, you only get garbage out. So it is very important to have right quality data to all the products to monitor the performance. Ashila, can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So areas where data quality has a direct impact. So you guys can actually ping me in LinkedIn or even in the comments if you find anything too technical. Please bear with me because it is completely related to marine industry and it may not be familiar for everyone. So yeah, maybe next slide, Ashila, where it can have a direct impact. So yes, many informed decisions driving efficiency, which is actually optimizing your engine, optimizing your hull performance, which is basically identifying if there is a hull fouling, which is all contributing towards the fuel consumption and which is directly having an impact on emissions. You see, sometimes you also estimate if you have the wrong data, right? You also estimate your performance sometimes over or under, where it actually have a difference because you are spending a millions in terms of fuel as well as on any initiatives which can drive or improve your performance. But if your decisions are not valid, again, depending on the data, then there it could be going for a huge loss, right? So yeah, next slide, Ashila. Yes. So talking about the decarbonization initiatives in the industry, we have got IMO DCS, CII, EU ETS, Scope 3, different categories, which are all kept as goals to achieve towards the 2050 targets of zero emissions. So what can happen if the data quality goes for a toss? Your higher penalties because your carbon is actually taxable. So if you will have to pay more taxes if you're not having the right data to depend on. Then loss of your reputation among the group of fellow colleagues, maybe charterers, regulatory bodies, because you will be submitting the wrong information and then somebody will come out saying that whatever you submitted is not right, and that loses your reputation, right? Then whenever you have any demurrage, right, potential demurrage claims arising from misaligned reporting, that can have an issue. Your CII ratings, which are actually direct, it has a direct impact on the charter rate. So the per day ship rates actually has taken into consideration CII part of it. So if your vessel is having a bad CII, the charter rates goes down. So that much is importance the industry is actually giving to the carbon emissions. Then as I mentioned, when you are analyzing any energy saving device which is to be installed on a ship, which can actually reduce your power or reduce your fuel consumption for a particular speed, right? The right data helps you a lot to make that right decision. If you're having poor quality data, then your performance is always undervalued or overvalued, which might not have a direct impact, right? Yes, actually, can we go to the next slide, please? Yes. So what is zero knots approach is what I just want to say, or what as marine professionals, what we are doing here to improve the quality of data. Yes. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yes. So first and the most important thing. So we are almost handling around 1,000 to 1,100 ships, right? So you should have a well-defined scalable process using. So that's where AI and the software tooling helps the data quality analysts to arrive at conclusions that the reported data is not right, and then we communicate with the masters to make them do the corrections so that we have the right data in the product and which gives the right insights. You see. Then we have, as I mentioned, the automated validations, which is actually there in the internal tool, making the process more scalable. We do manual reviews of the data. We have alert system inside software, which actually identifies, the wrong data. Then also we communicate, we keep a close communication, creating awareness among the marine professionals, that the importance of right data, which actually has a regulatory impact. So, and finally, we also have developed the data health score, from using which, any customer or anyone can actually look into the data quality of a particular customer as a whole, or vessel, or vessel specific. So, the health score is actually divided based on, the reports that are available, and also the data validations that we have in place. So we rate the vessels depending on the data quality that they have or they maintain. That's how we develop the health score. Yeah, Ashila. Yes, to summarize, as you all know, we have multiple products. If you have good data, you can make better decisions. You can have regulatory compliance. You have emission reduction. Accurate and reliable data is always the basic foundation for you to have all the best results in your product. That is for sure, right? And then the second, what I would like everyone to take away is that, data quality is not just a technical requirement; it is a strategic enabler. High quality data plays a critical role in supporting the marine industry's greener transition. It will also support every other industry who uses data to make informed decisions. So it is very important that we take data quality more seriously and develop product depending on it. Yes, I think that's all about what we have, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Arjun, for sharing those insights. I think I would totally agree that data quality is not just important in shipping industry, but in every other industry. Because I remember from my data analyst days how much time we used to spend in just doing data cleaning before we actually built any kind of model. So thank
Yes,
you
yes.
for reiterating that. So we have heard some brilliant keynote perspectives. It's time to bring our speakers together for a deeper conversation now. So time for a Q&A. We want this to be dynamic. So my humble ask to all the speakers is to keep your responses very brief and focused. And feel free to jump in if you have a different take on a question, or if you want to build on another speaker's point. I'll actually throw this question out in the open, but I think this was something that Joseph, you touched on it briefly when you in your presentation around local to global, which is, what's the biggest mistake companies make when trying to scale globally, and how do you think they can avoid it? And if there is any example that you can share, that will make it more real for our audience, that will be much appreciated.
Sure. Thank you for the question. And I think definitely there are a lot of points to be discussed. I think over the presentation, it's not just one thing, but definitely I think we have to focus more on the impact of the place that we are going to. Will locally we might have solved the problem, and which was worth solving. When expanding to a new market, whether the regulations does it really help solving that problem, or the problem that you have solved in the country initially locally is the problem existing globally. So it's the impact, as I told and emphasized with the examples. If it can be specified what impact and whether the market is really ready to take the product is something that can add value.
Cool. Thanks, Joseph. Luis, my next question is for you. So I know you are very passionate about green economy, but for startups with big ideas but who have limited budgets, what advice would you offer them, and how can they get involved in Europe's green tech movement?
I think, of course, first of all, that depends on where they're situated, right? Because, of course, in Europe, if you have like a European project here, which might be, you can say physically, then there are multiple grants that you can seek, or you can seek some funding in that way. But I think, basically, if it was a company wanting to, for instance, go into Europe with their solutions, I would definitely look at collaborations and partnerships with European players, because there's so much going on right now in this space. And as von der Leyen is saying, then Europe is open for business, and we welcome big ideas in this space. So I think actually just creating a win-win for everyone, that's something I firmly believe in, and that is possible. So it's a global challenge that we're facing in with a lot of these things, and it can also be solved by global collaboration, I'm sure.
And from your experience, let's say if there's a very small startup, how can they start engaging or doing these partnerships?
Um, I would actually, personally, I love LinkedIn as a
Mhm.
way to reach people. You would be surprised just by sending a personal invite how much, many people I've been able to reach and talk to by that personally. And I think everyone can do that, basically. So if you write a good message to someone and then keep writing messages, keep trying. And then eventually, someone will say, wow, that sounds interesting. Let's have a virtual meeting. So, and doors are open, right? So that's one way.
Perfect. And I think these days you can also use AI to write those messages on a repeat basis.
Yes. New world.
Cool. Um, so I'll quickly move on to you, Yuki. Your journey as a tech founder is truly inspiring.
Okay.
Uh, what would you say has been the hardest challenge in growing Jiitak in emerging markets and with limited resources?
Thank you for the question. We actually currently saw that we just want to expand, like we want to provide our service all over the world, and that is going to be, it's just like since we are more focused on software that can reach so many people like across the all over the world. So it's, we believe that what we sold initially was like just put it in cloud and open for anybody can be solving the problems. But what we realized was like we actually have to localize it, like in terms of like each markets, like cultural difference as well as like language difference. So what we had to do, it's we had to have the actual teams in that market, like in that location, so that we can get more, like like practical solution for it. So that was the hardest part that we faced initially, but we try, like we are currently trying to solve it. So that's why like we initially had the teams like office in India. Starting from that, we expanded to US, and we have it in Japan as well. So that was the hardest things that we just faced, and we try to solve it.
Cool. And what has been your experience like working across multiple locations like India, Japan, and then many other emerging markets?
Well, yeah, actually, like we have been still, going through the difficult parts, like, and like, you know, we are, discovering it in the process of discovery right now. But
Hmm.
it's pretty much fun. What the enjoyable things that I go through is like, the first of all, like when I talk to other Japanese people, they don't really, uh, you know, they don't really make question, like they don't really say that like why do I think so, because that's pretty much common sense in Japan. But when I started talking with our teams in India or like different countries where it is already that is called atarimai in Japanese. That means like it's common sense, but that is not the common sense for like Indian people or the people in US. So I have to start explaining from that common sense. So that's where I get quite interested, because like the common sense that we Japanese people think or I thought might be not the choose or effective way. So from that level, like standards, I really started thinking, is this actually like effective, or is this actually where we should go? So that it's something, it's difficult, but still that's meaningful. That's what I think.
Cool. I think common sense is not common. Arjun, I have actually a question for you. So, could you share an example wherein poor data quality significantly hindered your sustainability initiatives at Zero North, and how did your team address it?
Yeah, so there has been several instances, right, where the results actually does not show as expected. So because of which there are, the users facing challenges. So what we had done is we had developed validations related to, the consumption, the factors that is actually affecting the performance, which after fixing by the masters or the vessels, right, basically the ships, what had happened was the results was actually then showing fine, and then from 4 ships of that particular customer we got scaled up to another say 80 to 100 ships. So that was a good challenge. At the same time, we could get the solution right so that it helped them getting the trust. So I think when we are talking about the trust gained by the customers for every initiative, it is important that we give them the right results by using the right data. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Arjun. And Anish, my next question is for you. So Edge AI is gaining a lot of attention. So could you give us a practical example of how it's being used to address environmental challenges? Anish, you're on mute.
So, like I said in the presentation, you can use even the core series of laptops to actually run your Gen AI workloads, right? So, how does it impact the environment, right? One thing is you can reduce the total amount of compute power required to get things done, right? You don't generally depend on a huge server grade infrastructure to run your simple queries. Instead, you can run it locally on your edge related hardware like your core series of laptops, and that way your total power consumption comes down. The response time is quick, and more important thing, there is a huge amount of privacy concern among enterprise users, right? Like you're posting a question. Let's say you want to write an email, and if you post a question to the chat GPT, I want to write, I want to get this RFP proposal done to this particular customer. Can you please help me write draft an email? So basically, you are exposing your customers' data to an outside third party. So there are a lot of privacy related concerns. So definitely, you can avoid that if you are using have your local chatbot running on your local laptop. So definitely, you can ensure privacy concern is taken care of. On top of it, you are basically ensuring the energy consumption. Every questions that is posed to this Gen AI models requires huge amount of compute to get the inferencing done, right? So please be aware of those things and ensure we are environmentally conscious. Definitely,
Okay, I think we lost Anish there. Uh,
Ishan,
yeah, we can hear you now.
Ishan,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes. So basically, what I was summarizing is, please run it locally on your laptops. Definitely, your laptops can run models that are specifically trained for your use cases that will conserve energy and have a green Gen AI models running on your laptops. Thank you.
Perfect. We're also receiving some questions from the live audience, and I would love to bring in a few of them into the discussion. So we have one from Benjamin. So he asks that how can we distinguish between scaling a solution and scaling a business? And what measures can we take to ensure that developing countries are not left behind in this progress? And this is open to all, so anybody can jump in and answer. Any
So probably
panelists for you?
my 2 cents about that question probably would be like scaling the business perspective might be finding different types of end use cases with the same solution, right? You have a solution. Let's say you have a Gen AI model. Now you want to do document summarization. You want to do a chatbot. You want to build up document investigation kind of a tool, all with same solution. You have a Gen AI solution. We are building different types of use cases, business use cases that can perform that, right? From a solution scalability perspective, solution scalability is all about how many users, concurrent users can it handle, right? And how many geographies can it handle, and how how to customize it. Let's say if you take the example of India itself, or take the example of Asia. In Asia itself, we have so many languages. In India, there is more than 30 different languages. And then if you take Asia, each country has their own languages. Like there's a China has 2 3 languages, Japanese language, and then definitely Thai and all this. You can actually customize your solutions to ensure that it's scalable to all the different types of target audience that you have, right? So that way, definitely, it also eventually scales up your also business to a wider audience and ensure you have better reach.
Cool. Thanks, Anish. Anybody else who would want to share their perspective on the questions?
Sure. I'll just like continue where Anish left. I think it's definitely that is one perspective to it, and another totally different perspective to that is understanding about like especially the concern of developing markets. So one example where like the internet connectivity is super good, we might expand responses much faster. Whereas in developing countries where the infrastructure is not that strong, we might have to have alternative solutions, maybe sending messages, or those kinds of alternatives might be a better way of solving the problem. So these kinds of evolution might be required when comparing or scaling a product into different markets. So it's about how your target market really wants. So it might be some for some people it might be voice recognition that really matters. So if you can make it voice based, it will be more effective for them also. So it's about understanding your real end user to make it scalable into those markets.
Cool. Thanks, Joseph. Luis Pablo has a question for you from the live audience. So he asks, are these green initiatives in Europe aligned with ESG, and how they would be tracked in a real way? Like, is it through blockchain or something else?
So yeah, you can say that whenever Europe is looking with the Green Deal, they're trying to align it with ESG targets. So normally, you have like an overarching vision, and then you go into regulation mode, which is something that Europe is using to push some of these technologies forward and to ensure that it's the right solutions. And that in that regulatory framework, of course, they consider ESG. In terms of the product passports itself, how can you then track some of this in a realistic way? I think it's a matter of just starting the process, because I think maybe in the beginning there will not be a lot of data available, and you need to be very critical about the data that goes in there. Who validates that data? How do we do that in the right way? So I think, like in the startup world, it might be a little trial and error, but of course there will be some regulatory framework around it, and a guidance in terms of how to do that in the right way. And then I think maybe when we are further into the process, then things will be more realistic. I just think overall, from a perspective, it's very important that we can rely on the data that goes in there, and how to do that from a technology perspective. I think that is still up in the ocean, in the open, you can say. So it could develop one way or the other. But I'm sure they are very much aware of the value of using the right data, and the need for that.
Cool. Thanks for sharing your perspective. I think data quality again seems to be an important part of the entire model building and everything.
Yeah.
And there are a few more questions for you, Louis. You might find a business partner here because someone is trying to pitch you a startup idea who wants to know how to pitch their idea to innovation of Denmark, and how can they raise funds for their AI-based startups.
I think it depends on whether the startup is located, because the Innovation Fund of Denmark is for Danish startups, so the support of that. But then you can apply for a grant, and then if you go on to the next round, you get the opportunity to do some pitching. But it is, you can say, there is a lot of focus here on AI, and of course also on the green technologies. So if all of that is encompassed, and it seems like a viable business, then I think there will be some good chances of actually doing that. And yeah, so best of luck to whoever wrote that question.
Cool. Thanks, Louis. Arjun, I have another question for you. So, what do you think are the common mistakes companies make when trying to build data driven sustainability systems, especially for complex industries like maritime? And I personally have no experience with maritime industry.
No, sure,
So,
sure. So basically, what I have understood is that first is the importance, right? Like as what Louis said, now there are regulatory frameworks, right? So initially, even the masters, or I mean, or even the ships, they never used to know the importance of having the right data. But now, by creating this awareness of having these frameworks, it is very important that you have the right data in place, right? So that you have the, so that you have the full cycle right ready for the user. So yes, what is it? I see a question from what about as data becomes more integrated across platforms, how do you think companies can strike the right balance between? Yes, a very good question, to be very honest, because as we move towards this transformation stage of using more AI and stuff, it is very important that we become more transparent. So even in the marine industry, what we have noticed is, as I said, due to regulations, people are sharing data, but it's not so transparent even here. So we are creating awareness. We are creating. We are creating actually used cases. For example, for the people who are investing, right, for the product, we actually can have, or is your benefit commercially, because only it makes if you have a commercial value added to it. So you should actually bring up solutions or use cases which actually have a commercial importance to the marine industry. Only then they understand from that angle. That is how we have tried, and that is how we have been working. So far it is going good, so hopefully we'll have more of frameworks coming in, more restrictions coming in, which will actually emphasis more transparency, more data sharing among the among industry, and that's how. And I believe that should be the way forward, because we have to have transparency in the data, right? Only then we will have benefits out of it. Yeah, maybe if that is answering the question.
thanks, Arjun, for sharing your perspective. But going back to Anish's point, I hope we are, in terms of transparency, we are not sharing client information with everybody. Uh,
Ah,
but but jokes apart, final question before we wrap up. It's actually to the Gtech founders. We would love to hear a story about a customer or community whose life was meaningfully transformed by Gtech's technology. And how does that kind of an impact shape your drive?
Joseph, like to go first?
Yeah, if you prefer, I can go. There is like we had interesting challenge that we got. Like it was a complex system that we had developed, or we have the preceders of before us developed something really complicated. I think the explanation of that begins with the problem statement analysis. So which was not properly done. They thought of a lot of functionalities by itself, and they have created a massive scale, but which was not really used for the end user or the customer who is going to use the platform. So the idea was simple. It was in Japan, it's not quite common that you have cafeterias like in most other countries, that they have cafeterias within the company. Here it's not just common like that. So what the idea was, to have access for the employees to go to small restaurants, which we have a lot around the companies. So what they did is matching or giving discounts to the employees once the company have the subscription, so they can go out and gain discounts. That was one piece of the problem that was solved. So the how and the real core problem, how we were able to mitigate it, is make it simple system, so that it was just problem solving the required problem, not making it too massive as a complex system.
Yuko, would you like to add anything to that?
Uh, it's closely the same like how we like mostly where we cut in. It's like in the conversation with client is that when they talk to us, they're still not yet have much. They have the ideas, but it's not yet fixed. It's not formed yet. So that's where we cutting and started talking with them, and we are trying to make that idea more formed, as well as more, how to say that, more like that idea how we can like transfer to the functionalities. So that's where we that's what we pretty much do. So one of the example or portfolio that we did, it's quite simple. In Japan, there are so many people who has the license as chemist, but since most of the people who get the license of chemist are more like women, so after they giving the birth or get pregnancy, they are not coming back to the work. That is because like the work experience or like work life balance in Japanese company is not that good for those people, like those mothers who is coming back to you know so the ideas was that giving the platforms where those people, like those hospital or drugstore who just want those chemists just for 1 hour or just like some hours, they can just post the like jobs, and those people who wants to just work a bit can be matched. So that what's the there was the idea of more like problems, but how we made it in the solution was like we started talking with actual chemists or the actual drugstore and talking, and we find out the problems in the process, and we made it like automatic way, so that they can that the entrepreneur can reach the service to more like a lot of people and get the market. So that's basically where we jump in. And the problem, it's quite simple as it is, but it's entrepreneurs are thinking that it's really complicated way. So that's where we come in, and we try to make it as simple as possible.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think my definition of work-life balance also had to be updated after I moved to Europe a few years ago. So I can totally relate to that. It's time to wrap up to what has been like a truly engaging and insightful session. First of all, a sincere thanks to all our speakers. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, and to all of you in the audience for staying with us, asking thoughtful questions, and participating so actively. Few hygiene points before we close. A full recording of today's webinar will be available on Jiitak's LinkedIn page and YouTube channel. If you found this session valuable, please share it with your colleagues in professional communities. And of course, stay connected for more discussions, innovative insights, and upcoming initiatives. We will be sharing QR code on the screen soon, where you can fill in the Google form, and you can be in touch with speakers and Jiitak and myself. Mirai Innovation was about not just exploring the future, but also shaping it together. So thank you once again. And we look forward to staying connected. Have a great rest of the evening, day, afternoon, wherever you're based out of. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you,
so
Ishan.
much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.